So this next story didn't blow up nearly enough considering how ludicrous it is. Trump picks ex-Boeing executive Shanahan as defense secretary. President Donald Trump plans to nominate Patrick Shanahan, a former Boeing executive, as his defense secretary, the White House said on Thursday, breaking with tradition by choosing someone who made a career at a top defense company as Pentagon chief. So this speaks for itself how insane it is. This dude who he's picking was under investigation for giving Boeing preferential treatment with his work in the government. So he's worked in the government and he's been giving Boeing special treatment, of course, because it's his fucking former employer. There's the same shit that happened with Dick Cheney and Halliburton. Dick Cheney got an exit bonus of millions and millions of dollars, and then look at that. When he gets elected, he turns around and gives Halliburton no-bid contracts where they get rich off of an illegal and offensive war. He's also said, and I quote, "I'm committed to modernizing U.S. military forces." You pick the Boeing guy, and he's committed to modernizing U.S. military forces. In other words, hey, let's upgrade the shit that the military has, and in the process of upgrading, I'm going to make my buddies over at Boeing massively rich. So not only did he pick the Boeing guy is promising up front to be corrupt. He's promising he's going to help out his buddies for personal reasons. To illustrate how extreme this is like if the head of a cigarette company decided to lead the agency on cancer prevention. That's how ridiculous this is. It's like we had the head of a tobacco company saying, I am now the leader of the lung cancer prevention center. Everybody would be like, this is a farce. This is ridiculous. This is absurd. Why? You've undermined yourself with this. Nobody's going to take you seriously. But now this is the case for fucking defense secretary, man. I'm at a loss for words. They've taken out... See, in the past, in most administrations, they were smart enough to have plausible deniability and put a middleman in there. So, they put the guy who knows the guy, who has connections to the guy, who's at the defense contractor. Like, no, he never worked for them, so he's not corrupt and he doesn't have a conflict of interest, but he knows the guy who knows the guy, who then they cut these sweetheart backroom deals. Trump is just like, I don't give a fuck. Yeah, the Boeing guy. I don't care. Put him in this position. Like, these are people who legitimately go, and Trump did this. He said, get, a former oil executive and put him in the EPA. So the exact people who they're supposed to be regulating are their best friends. And they're not going to regulate him. And they can let him get away with fucking anything. It's like letting Goldman Sachs and Wall Street criminals regulate Wall Street. They're going to let him get away with everything. And that's the point. See, it's partly because of a philosophical commitment to deregulation, smaller government, and letting the private market do its thing. But it's also just because it's the good old boys club. And it's, the network of elites who all pat each other on the back. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. And we're left with a situation where it's rampant runaway corruption and it's our government working for a very small group of elites, special interests. They're working for Wall Street. They're working for the military-industrial complex. They're working for the oil companies. This is what's happening. So regular people, working people are not factored into the equation. They'll take our tax money and go fucking bomb 8 countries and start new wars all willy-nilly like it's nothing. And, I feel like people need to wake up to step one of this because we're so used to the corruption. Again, this barely made a blip on the radar, man. He picked a defense contractor to be the fucking defense secretary. What do you think's going to happen? What do you think's going to happen? You think that guy's going to go in there and say, my number one goal is to make peace with people? No. He's going to go in there and say, he already said it. Let's modernize the military, which means upgrade all the stuff, which, by the way, does not need to be upgraded. Does not at all. We already spend more than the next 9 biggest countries combined on our military. He's gonna try to rebuild the military when it's not needed, waste taxpayer money on that, and then look for more fucking wars to start. They're already talking about Russia and China in a hawkish way. In this article, they explain that. It's not just about Iraq anymore or Afghanistan. China and Russia are the geopolitical threats. Oh boy, here we go. Cold War 2.0, and they're embracing it, and they're loving it. And all the Democrats are too fucking stupid and screaming about Russiagate to combat this and fight back against this. The way you need to be resisting on Venezuela is to say, don't get involved. The way you need to be resisting on Iran is to say, stop, no regime change war. But instead they're going, yeah? Why aren't you standing up to Putin? Why aren't you being more hawkish on Venezuela and more hawkish on Iran? Our political system is broken. It's broken, and nobody's standing up and saying the right things.